Last time on our FloridaGators subreddit podcast.
Okay, tell me right now, which one's Jekyll and Hyde? Who's the good one? Who's the bad one? Hyde's the bad one, right?
I don't know. Well, it becomes more complicated because, like, defensively, you want the bad guy out there, right? Like, so
you're adding a layer right now, and that's making it way tougher than it needs to be. But I agree.
But
I agree with where you're going with this.
This is an imponderable. We're gonna have to run some studies.
I think this is the perfect opportunity to test out our new mod and to have him have a new assignment. So Zeus is going to be on this, determining the Jekyll and Hyde effect on a defensive player for us. So we'll get back to you next week on this.
Now joining us with a special report, Zeus Apollo.
Okay, so the strange case of Jekyll and Hyde, first published in 1886, or known as simply Jekyll and Hyde. It's about a London legal practitioner named Gabriel. I'm just reading the Wikipedia page. I'm a go.
I thought he was going to tell us the whole story.
What an asshole.
Snore, dance all night, gonna make you sore. Who's that rapping at my door? Is that Lenore? Never more. You need, baby, I'm a gator boy, through and through. My heart beats strong with that orange and blue.
Welcome, friends and neighbors, to our FloridaGator subreddit podcast. This is Tofree Gator. We are joined, as per usual, by Hammersuit. What's up, Hammer?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Fantastic. And Zlatan Diego. How's it going, buddy?
Let's talk some football. I'm ready.
As am I. So we're going to start with a review of the 42-28 loss at the Pretend Death Valley in Baton Rouge last Saturday. Who wants to get us started here on this review?
And how scathing of a person do you want? Do you want somebody that's really angry, a little angry, happy, medium?
I've come around from being really, really angry. I DM'd you guys, and I was not in a good headspace on Monday. I'm feeling a little bit better about it now, but yeah, let's start with
do you want drunk Hammersuit from the day of the game?
You get the drinking. I'll start talking, and then we'll see what comes up afterwards.
Sane, able to reflect Hammersuit. Like, which one do you want tonight? So, because if you want the former, I'll go get some shots of vodka.
No, I think we're good. Okay. People didn't seem to appreciate that in the game thread.
I think I made a lot of enemies that day.
Yeah, I thought it was fine, but I tend to be a bit of a glass half empty kind of guy myself. Zlat, let's get your thoughts first. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I felt really good at first. I was enjoying it. I knew there were some big issues. I reflected on it, and I was almost the opposite of you. I started to get a little upset. But I'm going to give you the overall perspective that I'm getting from people out in this part of the country. And by this part of the country, I mean Mississippi, where I live.
So these are ignorant, uneducated perspectives.
Not a single person has any sort of education. We're talking second grade level.
Shoeless, homeless.
Obviously, I don't know a single person here that has shoes either, actually. So they have homes, but I mean, home is a pretty broad definition.
Right.
They do live in a spot that they go to.
Like tents.
Yeah, that's more California, the tent thing. But anyways, this is SEC West country. All they care about out here are the SEC West teams. LSU, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. A&M doesn't count. But those are the teams that matter. Nobody else matters unless you're really, really good. So they care about Georgia. They haven't cared about Florida much. They just don't talk about it that much. After this game, I was hearing from a lot of people how impressed they were with our team. People from, pretty much every single team that you can imagine. So the overall mindset I have is the nation watched this game. I think it was the most watched game on ESPN in years ever. I saw some kind of crazy stat with 6.4 million, or I don't know. But it was highly watched. Everyone watched it, and pretty much everybody came away impressed. I think Kirk Herbstreit has us winning the SEC now, and he may just be, blowing smoke or anything like that. But people were impressed. They saw a different Florida. We all saw a different Florida. Well, we saw what we've been seeing this year, but people finally realized what kind of potential we have on offense. So I'm really excited about that. The offense looked very good. We improved in a lot of ways. There were a lot of issues on defense. I'm going to let somebody else talk because we're probably going to have a pretty big segment on that. But that's my overall vibe. I'm actually feeling pretty good about this, even though it's a loss, which does upset me. I think we actually came ahead in the national perception, and that's good for playoff rankings, and that's good for recruits.
I agree. I mean, that's really well said. I mean, I think, national perception, I think, has changed. You have a lot of people talking about us in a positive way. It's not like oh wow, Florida, got blown out. Like, no, Florida went into Death Valley. Was it the first quarterback in how many years to throw for over 300 yards in LSU? Like, they said what in the last 10 years, something like that. First time someone's done that. And until pretty much the fourth quarter, we were neck and neck with what a lot of people now are considering the best team in the country, or arguably one of the best teams in the country, right? It was good to see. A loss sucks, but you have to lose sometimes to understand your weaknesses, so then you can improve them. And I feel like this team understands their weakness is a lack of superior depth. We have depth, we just don't have elite depth. And championship level teams have elite depth. They have guys who can replace their guys. Like, if we have Zuniga and Grenard, if they're both out of the game, we should have people to be able to replace them, right? So I think it's good to see. Is like, cool, Dan's bringing us on the right. We're on the right track. Because if this was McElwain, how much do you think we would have lost by? Like, I'm thinking it probably would have been 48-10, maybe. Like,
yeah,
maybe
might have been a 40,
like
50-point loss. I mean,
yeah,
like brutal.
We would have gotten eviscerated, right? And Dan is showing that he can compete at a high level against top teams in the country. Does that mean he's going to win all the time? No, he can compete. And that's step one. That's step one in changing the perception of your program. That's step one in changing the direction of your program, right? Because he has built some solid classes, but he's also got, he's also inheriting the tailspin of McElwain's classes, right? Which were considered not that great. And so he's able to do that at this level. So I think if he can continue to improve his recruiting and to continue to build the team in the way that he wants, like we saw what he did at Mississippi State. Like, he had the number one ranked team in the country for a couple weeks. I mean, he can build a program that can compete. He just never had the talent level he has available to him, at Mississippi State that he has now. And so I'm pretty excited to see how everything went. I mean, I think Trask played well. The offensive line looks significantly improved. Our wide receivers are awesome. Like Van Jefferson killed it on that drive.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good to see. And I mean, we'll talk about our defense later because I do have a lot of to talk about that was annoying. There also was some bright spots to the defense, surprisingly. Like, you would think, wow, how when they got shredded by Burrow, but I actually have some bright spots that I'm going to talk to you guys about. But I think it was a good loss. If anything exists, it's a good loss. It's not one of those ones where you hold your head in shame, like, fuck, how did we lose to South Carolina at home when we're the third ranked team in the country? Like, it's not one of those kind of losses. This is we fought, we were not good enough yet, but we still gave them a game. And I feel pretty proud about the Florida Gators for that.
Yeah, that was, I think, by far the best, or the most complete we've looked on offense so far this year. We weren't just getting blown up at the line of scrimmage on runs. I felt like we had a decent push in the run game, and we gave Trask generally enough time to throw. I was happy. I'm happy with the progress the offensive line is making. It's still a long ways from where it needs to be, but it's gotten better. And yeah, Trask is a hell of a quarterback. There's no more of a test that you're going to be able to throw at a quarterback than a night game at LSU. I don't think that the sound was an issue for us at all. I mean, he just went out there and he was poised and did exactly the same things that he's done for us so far this year. And that's awesome. It's awesome to have like a reliable, good quarterback. And yeah, so I agree. There's reasons for optimism in this loss. I guess I don't necessarily see it. It seems like there's a lot of parts of our fan base that are taking this as, I don't know. It's there seem to be some people who are almost like gleeful. I don't know if that's the right word, but like
I'm feeling people are almost treating this like a win.
Yeah, it's just not for me. It's that type of attitude, like this idea that while they are a very, very good team, this idea that it's like we just went toe-to-toe with Alabama, or like a team that has been competing for national championships for years and years. I just don't really see it that way. And I think that's a narrative that some are kind of running with or trying to propagate. I'm not there.
I just want to add one thought to that, kind of in line with exactly what you and Hammer were both saying. This is a game that proved we're ready to compete at the national level. And that's huge. I mean, it really did. It proved that we're ready to play with the big dogs. That is not a victory, though. That's what we should be doing.
Right.
And we haven't been for a decade now, however long it's been. We've not been able to. So, I mean, that's huge that we're finally at that point. That's improvement. And that's showing, hey, we can do this. And that's great. But it's not a win. It's a loss. And here's the big thing. Auburn, we expected before the season to kind of not be great. And it was great that we beat it. But I think a lot of people, and definitely myself, viewed the LSU and the Georgia game, both of those two games, as the real, what's going to show if we've taken that step forward. We needed to be able to compete in both, not get our asses blown out, which so far we've done. We also needed to win one. We didn't win the LSU game. In my mind, I think we have to win this Georgia game. Might be high expectations, but I mean, we have to show that we can actually win these games and not just, we're going to compete at a high level, but we're going to still lose. That's not enough. And does it have to happen this season? Not necessarily, but if we want to show that we're ready, then it needs to start happening, and this is a great opportunity. So,
yeah, I mean, if we can, I think we realistically, out of the next 5 games we have, there's only one game that I would say, if we're going to lose, this is the most likely loss, and that would be Georgia, right? But I mean, that's I'm glad that we're at this level again where people are talking about Florida, and it's not like, wow, look how shitty this offense is. How does a team with this much talent have the 119th ranked offense in the country? But their defense does look nice, guys. If you remember, that's what they would talk about for years. And I saw on ESPN after we lost, they played that drive that Trask did where he threw against, was it Stingley from LSU?
Mm-hmm.
And Van Jefferson caught every pass on that drive.
The back shoulders and the
yeah. And the guy from ESPN was breaking it down, and he goes, "That is an elite offense." That's what he called it, because Stingley is considered right now the favorite to be a first-team All-American at corner.
As a true freshman,
right? And Van Jefferson, yeah, he's experienced, but no, if you asked me at the beginning of the season, do you think Kyle Trask could throw against a favorite All-American at corner and succeed at a high level? I would say probably not, because I wouldn't even expect him to start. That's awesome to see that. That's the narrative now. It's the Florida is coming back. The Florida that everyone expects to exist is materializing in Gainesville right now. I think that is something to be excited about. Am I excited that we lost? No. If you were part of the group chat after we lost that game, you will see my thoughts. And they are very transparent when it has some alcohol. All right, and so that's really what it is. And I'm excited to see where Florida's going from there.
Yeah. Okay, so are we ready to move on to some of our gripes and complaints?
Yeah, let's. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm looking through my notes right now, but yeah, I mean, we all know Kyle Trask was super impressive. I think the coaches had a few decisions they made that I was really excited about that I've been hoping for all year. One of which was um, moving Dean off, putting Marco Wilson inside in this place, and then getting Kyer Elam outside starting. I've thought we needed to do that. We did it, and I don't think we did it in the right way, which we can get into. But I loved it that we were able to adjust the personnel. And the last thing, Henry, you had mentioned the depth at just on defense, the talented depth in general, and you had referenced Zuniga and Grenard. That's the one spot that we've actually been recruiting at a high level at and landing players at. Sometimes you just have shit luck. And I think with this game, with that position, we did. We lost David Reese 2.0, I call him. He was going to play that, but we lost him before the season to an Achilles injury. We were not able to get Brenton Cox eligible, which I think that's kind of a side note anyways. He's more of a guy for next year regardless. Mohamed Diabate and Chris Bogle have both played every single game as a true freshman. And Bogle played a ton in this last game. Moon, I think, is the other holdover from the prior staff. And I mean, he is what he is right there. And Carter, I don't know if he did that well either, but we've recruited well there. We've added really good players there, and we've just lost it. I mean, you have your three top guys go down to injury. There's not much you're going to be able to do when you have that as a key position.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like we're not recruiting well at that level. It comes down to talented depth across the board. Like if you lose a player like Zuniga and Grenard, even if it's not as effective, someone should still be able to make an impact if you're recruiting well, right? Like someone should have gotten Burrow. Like there were so many times where they could have sacked him, but he ran away. It's like
I think it's a situation where we have begun recruiting well at that position, but none of those guys are experienced enough to be super effective. Although they have the talent, they don't have the experience yet. And so that's why we kind of have to get to a point where we're bringing in that kind of talent in every class going forward, because we are still we're still paying for sins of the previous coaching staff at that position, at least.
Well, and the other problem is that you needed at multiple positions. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been as huge of a deal if our safeties and linebackers on the inside weren't both stellar, but you know, we have issues there too. So
that was the biggest. I think we are in a situation with our linebackers and our safeties where they are good players, but they aren't good enough players for us to be an elite defense across the board. We're going to have to be one-dimensional to an extent against either the pass or the run in every game, because we've got, you know, like we basically have one linebacker who's good in coverage right now in Amari Burney. And so we're going to be able to do some good things against the pass sometimes, but not all the time. And then sort of the same thing at safety. We've got guys who are good against the pass. We've got guys who are good against the run. But right now, we just don't really have anybody who's good in all of the situations.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have like overall players that are well-rounded. I agree with what you're saying. Zuniga is probably the best defensive end that we have had at Florida, in my opinion, since Carlos Dunlap.
I praise.
Because he doesn't show up. The thing is, he doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Like I said last year, Polite got a lot of the sacks. He was like the highlight reel guy, you know. But it's because Zuniga takes up so much attention. Like he's double teamed constantly. I mean, the couple snaps he wasn't in that game, he was creating some issues for that LSU offensive line. You know, he just wasn't ready to come back. And Grenard getting hurt. Obviously, Grenard is the new Polite this year. He's getting the mismatches because teams are having to key on Zuniga. I'll be honest with you guys. I think Zuniga is someone that NFL scouts are salivating over. He is a all-around, can stop the run. He's a pass guy. He can drop back into coverage. He understands the game. He's extremely smart. He is in the position defensive room helping those guys out. He's in the overall defense. Like, we've heard that like Todd Grantham has so much trust in him that like he will essentially will like call audibles for the entire defensive line if he needs to, based off what he sees. Like, he is a monumental impact, so losing him is huge. Like, I'm not saying that, oh man, we should have Zuniga 2.0 ready to go. You know, like if we did, we would be unstoppable, right? I think it's just my concern was that you saw the lack of elite depth because guys get tired. You know, like CJ Henderson, for all of his talent, he's going to get tired if he's constantly having to run all over the field because those wide receivers are running complete crossing routes, right? Marco Wilson, honestly, moving him to the star was a fantastic move, and like you saw a little bit of an improvement overall, you know. But I think it's gonna be something that he needs to practice in as a team.
Yeah.
You know, but guys get tired, and when guys get tired, they need to sit for a couple snaps. The guys behind them maybe aren't ready to take that step, right? Like you said, like, you know, Diabate and Chris Bogle they're young and they're not as impactful. Like 3 years from now, I expect us to be talking about them like we're talking about Zuniga and Grenard. You know what I mean? And that's the problem is like, and I'm not blaming this on Mullen at all. Like, I'm just saying it's just a lack of elite depth, which is what separates really good teams from championship caliber teams, and that's where we're at right now. We're at a really good team. I think Dan Mullen's going to have us at a really good team for a while. Eventually, he's going to build that depth to the point where we can afford to lose a guy like Zuniga and a guy like Grenard and still have a chance. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I think we saw a lot of great execution in the game, and there are some issues too. On defense, we had some issues. We had some missed tackles, things like that. But the offensive line had stepped forward. I think Kyle Trask actually took a step forward. He just looked better, more comfortable, ready to make the throws even quicker. And it's not like he was super slow or anything before, but I mean, he looked a lot faster in his reads. He wasn't hanging onto the ball or anything. I thought the players played very well. And like I think Topher had mentioned this, the environment at Death Valley with how loud it is, we weren't worried about that, but it was a huge thing. And I didn't really notice anything. There might have been one false start on our team. Do you remember? I don't know.
There was one.
Was one in a holding. That's pretty much the
yeah. And in a holding, I mean, you can't blame that on the noise either. So I mean, maybe there was one or two missed assignments or wrong routes or whatever. But it was just we handled that very well. So the coaching staff prepared these guys amazingly. What the coaching staff didn't do was make a good game plan. This is probably the most disappointed I've been in our actual overall strategy. The offense did what I wanted it to do. I was actually really happy with the offense, almost everything that we did.
The offense was good enough to win if we had a better
It
team.
was, yeah. It was,
yeah.
And the offense did what I had hoped we could do. Defense, not at all. I thought they showed up. I thought they showed up prepared, but completely just the strategy itself was just awful, and we didn't change it at all. What do y'all think? I mean, I was pissed.
Well, the defense was pretty bad. Like it was just out of position. Guys were gassed. Like a lot of props to the LSU, guys. Like they made a game plan where they're like, let's just stretch these guys because they don't have backups. Like we don't have, 5 or 6 corners that we can rotate in like LSU would. So let's gas these guys, and then in the fourth quarter, like even if they were scoring so quickly, our offense was giving them time to breathe. But I mean, shit, if you're having to run from the left hash all the way up to the right hash, and then all the way back to cover some guy doing some crazy ass route, and then Joe Burrow's still slinging it over your head because someone else got behind you, it's like you're gonna get tired and you're gonna get frustrated. And it was a lack of adjustments, a lack of making those. Like at halftime, we went into the game tied, and I said to myself, I was like, if we don't change something about defense, we're not going to be able to keep up. Like, because our offense is good. Like I honestly don't have any complaints about our offense. I really don't. Like they did well. Like, and everyone did what they were supposed to do. P. Ryan was running hard as fuck. He was like slamming his hand into people, like just wanted to get through. Kyle Trask looked like an elite quarterback, in my opinion, the way he was navigating around the pocket. The wide receivers were catching everything thrown at them. They were getting open as much as they can. Because LSU doesn't have a shit secondary. They've got 3 guys on the midseason AP All-American team. Like, it's not like they're pushovers, That's why everyone debates who's at DBU. Is it LSU? It's like that's because they're good. They make a really solid backfield.
Yeah. So DB, I have a question for you, Hammer.
Yeah.
It looked like, I'm not even sure if we played up at all. It looked like our corners were standing 7 yards off their receivers every single play.
We played a lot of zone.
And am I crazy, or is that just the dumbest thing that we could have done?
We played a lot. We don't have safeties that are good at coverage, with the exception of like one.
So is that the only reason we did that? Because we knew our safeties couldn't keep up?
If you asked me to come up with an answer right now, I'd say I think it's because our safeties, think about it, who are the 4 safeties who rotate the most? We got Juwan Taylor, Jonathan Steiner, Brad Stewart, and Sean Davis. Those are our.
Don't you love that we have a 4-man safety rotation? Isn't that wonderful?
I feel like I saw less of it in this game.
I
feel like it was almost exclusively Stewart and Davis.
Actually, it felt like a lot more of them. I saw them
because they were forced to actually play their best players.
Yeah, right. What a novel fucking idea, by the way.
The horror. I'm sure Mullen and Grantham were both spinning in their own graves.
Wow, it was probably Ron English going, "I promised these guys extra playing time. Why don't I mean?"
And though he didn't even recruit them, but he probably did.
Yeah,
but he promised them.
Yeah. Steiner is fucking. It's a mess, right? He's great at some things and then not great, right? Whatever. We've already bashed him before. Brad Stewart is okay. From what I've watched, he's okay at coverage. He's great at run support. I mean, he's a solid guy to be in the back. He's one of those guys, like, if Sean Davis is next to him, it doesn't hurt to have him, because if a running back gets to the second level, he'll probably stop them, right? Like, that's what he's supposed. He's like a Patrick Chung type player. He's okay at at covering guys. Might need some help, but is really good at run support. Sean Davis is the pure coverage safety. He's got great instincts, great ball skills. And then Juwan Taylor is a smart guy, but he's not talented. If he even makes it to the next level, it's purely on special teams, right? So that's what we have at the backfield, and it's hard to cover receivers man on man. It doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, you think about C.J. Henderson is arguably one of the top 5 corners in college football right now. He's going to probably be a first-round pick, and he's really, really good. And he actually played really well. He had a couple of passes that he probably could have played better, right? But he played well, and he was going up against elite wide receivers who will be playing in the NFL. Jamar Chase and Jefferson are going to be drafted high. They're really good guys, right? But it's difficult to play man on man for a prolonged period of time, because the corner has to follow the receiver. The receiver can go straight and then to the left, or then stop, go all the way to the right, go back to the left. They can go wherever they need to go. The corner's job is to make sure they're watching them, while also keep an eye on the quarterback to hopefully maybe make a play on the ball, right? So they have to do more work than a receiver has to. So it's really difficult to stick to a guy in pure man coverage for a long period of time. That's what a pass rush is for, right? If you have an elite pass rush, you can play more man.
Which
the problem is we didn't have a pass rush. So it goes to, let's play more zone. Let's put these guys in positions to where we're going to give them some cushion. They're going to make some catches, but hopefully we have enough, we can stop them when they catch the ball, right?
Yeah, we were worried about getting roasted deep, I believe.
Yeah, well, because we don't have the backups. We don't have the people in the back that can cover.
Right, exactly. And so, from that standpoint, I understand what we were trying to do, and I don't think it was the worst game plan. But I don't at some point in the second half when that's not working, fuck it, let's try something different.
Well, they could have gone more
we could have gone more aggressive with the coverage. From the corners, in my opinion, even if you've just got the safeties back playing a deep zone, at least go man with the corners and see if you can stop them 2 or 3 plays in a row and get them to punt, which they did one time in the second half.
Yeah.
Was there a single first down that they didn't get 8 yards? It felt like every single first down, whether they ran or passed. I mean, it's just, I mean, they had the cushion, so Burrow was able to throw it quickly.
Yeah, because Burrow was like,
And,
all right,
I mean,
I'll get 6 yards here, and then we'll go.
They
and
ran
get
all
first
over
down.
us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and maybe there's no good answer here. Maybe we just, without Grenard and Zuniga, we just didn't have the personnel, and there's nothing we could have done. If we play them again, like getting way ahead of ourselves, if we beat Georgia, beat Missouri, get to the SEC championship, and play a team like LSU or even Alabama, who has very similar receivers and a smart quarterback, how do we stop that? Can we? If, let's say, Zuniga and Grenard are healthy, can we even stop it with our personnel?
I think they can, but you got to be healthy, or someone's got to step up and be able to take over that. The problem is that, like, you're going to tire out your corners, and that's where it comes back to my original argument. We don't have talented depth to back up those corners, right? Like Elam, and was it Elam and is it Huggins is our guy?
We had Huggins playing behind Trey Dean in the nickel, and Steele would have been playing heavy snaps too.
And then you have Kimbrough and Trey Dean are the other corners besides Henderson and Marco, right?
Well, and just to be clear, Huggins was the one who was booted from the team in the preseason.
Oh wait, no, or is it Hill then? Hill, my bad, Hill.
Okay, that's okay. All right, yeah, Hill's
yeah, my bad, it was Hill.
He should play later on.
No, Hill and Elam and Kimbrough, all three of them are really talented guys, but they're
not ready.
They're true freshmen.
Yeah,
they're true freshmen playing in a very hostile environment with receivers that have a great position coach and are put in positions of success with an elite quarterback. Because I'm sorry, Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. Like, that guy was really impressive.
I guess I want to push back a little bit on the idea that we were worried about getting our corners tired out because we didn't have depth. LSU ran, I don't have it in front of me, but off the top of my head, I believe it was 48 offensive plays.
It was 45 or 47. It was one of those two. But yeah, it was under 48.
I mean, that's nothing. Like, that's, even if you're worried about getting your corners tired out, like, you got to try something different, because they're going to get more tired out if they're getting their ass run up and down the field vertically all game long. And so I think that you've got to try something different.
Yeah, like, they got to go more aggressive with man coverage. You got to hit receivers at the line of scrimmage, like something like shadow the best receiver, shadow Jefferson with CJ. Put CJ on Jefferson, right. No matter where he's lining up, put him on him. Like, I cannot stand you're a left field cornerback and you're a right field cornerback mentality. No, fuck that. Put your best guy on the best guy and let him go. Like, team coaches who do that are not smart. Like, they're not. They're not smart. Like,
what are you saying?
No, I'm saying like, look at the best coaches. In your opinion, all right, who's the best coach? The best coach in the NFL and best coach in college football right now? Who are they? In your opinion,
Belichick and Saban.
Belichick and
Saban, right?
Any question? Yeah.
So both of them were. Belichick has Gilmore, who is arguably probably the best corner in the NFL right now. Right? He is matched up on the best guy from the opposing team all game. He plays every single snap. I think he plays 99% of every game snap. And it doesn't matter where that guy lines up, whether it's on the outside, left, right side, slot, backfield, doesn't matter. Gilmore is playing man-to-man coverage with him because he's the best guy to cover that person, right? Saban does the same thing. He puts his elite corners on the top guys and lets everyone else take up the rest of the matches. And sometimes he loses matches. There's if a big tight end or another wide receiver is faster than this other guy, and they make game plan decisions. We weren't doing that. It was like, I love Elam, and he's amazing. Elam cannot compete with Jamar Chase right now. Like, he doesn't have the ability to do so, right? It's not that he's not talented enough or fast enough. Jamar Chase has an elite position coach who's taught him, and Joe Brady is really good at scheming wide receivers to get open, right? You got Trey Dean, who I don't know what the hell. Like, I have no idea what's going on with him. Like, he was my preseason. I can't wait for him to play because he played so well as a freshman. And honestly, I think he's a better corner than the position they're trying to play him at. They just don't have anyone else to go there. But Marco Wilson might be that new guy. I'm kind of excited to see what he does.
Well, do you think we actually keep that though? Because I don't. That's not the way we play or
No, because they're stubborn. They are going to like. I think like I listened to Dan Mullen's press conference on Monday, and he was talking about like someone asked him like why is Kyle Trask playing better, blah blah. And he was like, because I run a specific offense and my guy's going to fit that. And he did say, he goes, but I do like to change and tweak my system based off the skill set of the person under center, right? Like if Emory Jones is in, we're going to probably play a completely different offense than Kyle Trask, right? Todd Grantham, though, is historically well known to not change his defensive style. It is going to be his way. There's no altering it, right? And that is one of his flaws. He's still a great defensive coordinator. He's probably one of the best right now, but he is very stubborn and won't change it up. And I think that's our problem against LSU, is that he believed that his system was going to work. It doesn't work because our pass rushers were out, and that's how his defense lives and breathes by the buck position. Like if you don't have someone dominating in that role, it does not work. And instead of completely changing his defensive philosophy at halftime, he just went with the exact same game plan we had in the first half, and we can't keep up. Like our guys, like they're talented, and it's not that they're tired. I wasn't trying to say they were getting tired out. I was saying like
within the context of a single play.
Yeah, they're running all over the place. And right. when LSU has 5 wide receivers out there, who's covering those 5 wide receivers? You got probably Henderson, then you have Wilson, then you have Elam, then you have Hill, and then probably Trey Dean or Sean Davis. Well, someone's going to get open. It's almost impossible to keep 5 guys from getting open unless your pass rush is hitting the quarterback, which we were not doing. So it was just an overall complete dismantling of our defense. It was completely dysfunctional. It was not working at what it's intended to do, and it's flawed. Because if our defense cannot perform at a high level because we lost Grenard, then what? Like you have to be able to change it. You got to be able to alter how your defense goes, and that comes down to my original thing, is that we don't have the guys that can fill that role. Because if Grenard goes down, we should have someone that should be able to play at least 50% of the impact Grenard makes. Does that make sense? Like someone should be able to at least do okay. We didn't have anybody. Like Jeremiah Moon was getting like fucking teabagged by an offensive lineman in the game, right? Everyone looked out of position, missed tackles because they're frustrated. They're getting beat constantly, right? And also, like, our corners are not the best tacklers. Like, they're not. Torian Gray corners are not great tacklers. Just newsflash. Because they're ball skill versus, being run support, right? So, I mean, it was just dysfunction, complete dismantling of our defense. And it was unfortunate to see, but I'm glad it happened against a team that isn't going to make or break our season like LSU, because I think that Dan Mullen, he's not gonna make sure that shit gets changed. He's like, no, Todd, we need to change this. If Grenard makes or breaks our defense, something needs to be changed. We need to change something to where we are maximizing our potential on defense, so we don't have this issue going forward. So I'm not super concerned. Now, if we start getting gashed by South Carolina, it might be, right? But I'm glad it happened against LSU and not, because the Georgia game is honestly the most important game we have left on our schedule.
Sure. One other thing I wanted to get y'all's opinion on was the quarterback shuffle situation that we continued to see a couple times with playing Emory on a handful of drives. My own thoughts on that. I was fine with it in the first half when he went in. He was effective. He made a really good throw over the middle to Pitts that was basically a touchdown, but the LSU DB played it perfectly and managed to get a hand on the ball as soon as Pitts grabbed it. I thought it was fine in the first half. I'm not in love with it personally, but obviously Mullen is married to that idea, and it was okay in that situation, but I hated it in the second half. I despised it with every fiber of my soul. It was situationally it was the worst time you could have put him in to the game, and it was the worst possible time that we could have had a 3-and-out. It was terrible.
It actually seemed like we had a drive drawn up, something that maybe Dan had found in the LSU defense, a way to attack it. And I think he had plays called specifically to do that, that he maybe even drew up at halftime. And it didn't work, which I mean, that's its own thing. So, I mean, you can argue one way or the other on that, like, oh, maybe it would have worked. But it is frustrating that, Trask was getting into a groove, and it seemed like we took him out at the perfect time to ruin that groove.
Lost momentum.
To throw off momentum. Yeah, it was a momentum loser, basically. And, I mean, I know that we're playing a little bit of a game here where Mullen wants to, get his run game going. He wants to develop Emory. He wants to balance things out. But I think another piece here that the only way that it makes sense to me is we're trying to keep Emory happy. We want him around. We want him to know that we're going to use him. That's the only way that makes sense to me, because it wasn't. I mean, you do not put him in there if you're trying to just win this game straight up.
Yeah, and I'm not against that because it has been mostly effective throughout the season. So it's not like we're putting Jeff Driscoll out there, having him throw 10 interceptions. But it's like that was the worst time to do it. Like that, like I would have been more okay with Emory coming out immediately at halftime, and taking that drive versus the one he did take where we still had momentum. I'm pretty sure we were still tied at that point, and we could have driven down the field and potentially scored. That would have been a lot more effective. And if that drive with Emory, if it was the immediate first one out of halftime and it stalled, it wouldn't have been a big deal because it's like, well, all right. I mean, let's just put Trask back in and we'll be fine. But I think that was the worst time to do it because it took him off his game. The timing's off because Emory Jones is a completely different quarterback. The receivers have to play with different timing. They got different routes. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback at all, but it's just the worst time for him to be played there.
Okay. Well, does that wrap up our thoughts on the LSU game?
Yeah, I was a lot nicer than I thought I was going to be. But
I did. If you had recorded this the day after the game, or even maybe 2 days ago, then it would have been brutal. If I have any more thoughts, I'm sure I'll just bring them up in the bye week or something. But that's all I have.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm glass half full, everyone. I'm not pessimistic like it was on Saturday.
Yay!
Yay!
All right, so let's move on to previewing the South Carolina game.
Sweet. So I guess Helinski is playing. They said he has just a minor sprain, which is good and bad. So I feel like he's going to be a little bit limited. It's going to obviously a minor sprain in the leg is going to mess up his ability to throw. It's not like he's going to completely destroy it, but he's going to obviously be limited a little bit. Dan's going to have this team prepared, I think, because this team went into Athens against the third-ranked team in the country and just beat them at every single phase of the game. That was... I'm not sure if you guys watched that game, but that was bad. That was probably the worst I've ever seen UGA perform in a decade. Even when Mark Rich was there. That was bad. It was beaten at all levels. And they're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready for Florida to come into their home now after they just beat a top 10 team. They're going to have a lot of confidence in themselves. They're going to be ready. And if you've ever been to South Carolina, that place is pretty lit. That is sandstorm with the towels waving. It's definitely not an environment equivalent to Death Valley at night, but it's also not an environment that I would like my team to go into after their first loss of the season. So our team's got to be prepared. Muschamp is always going to play his hardest. Is going to coach hardest against Florida because he's got just a little bit of a bone to pick with us.
I understand why.
Yeah.
It's his own stupid fucking fault he got fired. It's not our fault he was a shit-ass offensive coach.
If you don't suck, you don't get fired.
We're all aware of this. It's just, that's what he is.
He should consider some personal accountability. Maybe he should look himself in the mirror and give himself his little fireman speech. Tell himself that he's the fireman and it's his job to go out and put out the fires.
And now that he has glasses, maybe he'll be able to see himself and actually see what we've all been seeing.
Man, his glasses with that stomach it's just funny.
It's wonderful. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I mean, so Helinski playing, honestly, I prefer him playing more than Joyner because Joyner looked like he could take over a game with his legs, and we clearly cannot stop Joe Burrow from running. So, and this guy looks like he's faster than Emory Jones. So I'm like, okay, cool, let's play Helinski. I'm cool with that. I think I don't have any issues. I think our defense is going to play at a high level. I don't expect us to play Zuniga and Grenard, but it's fine because South Carolina isn't as talented of an offense. So I feel like our corners and our other backup defensive ends and linebackers should be able to make some plays. I'm just it's one of those games where, like, you look at the schedule and you're like, okay, we got LSU, and then we got Georgia right after that. I mean, we have a bye week, I know, but it's always that game in the middle that just it's difficult. It's a difficult game. Yeah,
and I'll use that to jump into this. This is a game of intangibles. I think pretty much every position group, we probably have an advantage. If not a small advantage, it's at least pretty close. We're just a better overall team. We have better talent. That's just the way it is, and it's the way it's pretty much always going to be, as long as you don't have McElwain recruiting consistently or coaching for us. So when that happens, it comes down to the intangibles, and they could go a few different ways here. South Carolina is coming off this huge emotional high, and I've seen a lot of teams do that, and they come in flat. I mean, they went all out on Georgia. They might have just used everything they have in the tank, every trick they have, all the mental ability. They prepped, they pumped up, and they did everything they could. Boom, you go beat Georgia at home. This is a trap game for them in a way. Now, on the flip side, like you said, I mean, they could just be on an emotional high and actually be confident enough to think, oh, we can actually win this, and maybe they'll show up strongly. But I've seen it happen a lot where a team falls flat. Our issue is that we're coming in. This is our, I think, fifth SEC game in a row. Is that?
Nope.
Might be fourth.
Nope.
It's our fifth game in a row, and maybe there's Towson is thrown in there somewhere. But the games have ramped up. We had Tennessee and Kentucky, who are both. I mean, Kentucky beat us up a little bit at first. Tennessee was obviously a cakewalk, and Towson is a little bit of a cakewalk. But that time, when Towson came in, we had the HBO cameras there, so the players mentally out of it a little bit. They had to deal with the cameras. Then you have to prep for Georgia. Or not Georgia, I'm mixing up. Then you have to prep for Auburn. Then you have to prep for LSU after that. These players, they could be mentally exhausted. I mean, not just physically. We're obviously beat up. We have Zuniga and Grenard that are definitely going to sit out. There's no way they play. We're physically tired. We haven't had a break. We could come into this game mentally tired too, after going all in on this whole Death Valley experience and playing in that kind of loud arena. We might have used all that we have. So this is one of those things where I could see some very ugly stuff showing up from both sides. And that's exactly what we don't want to happen. We do not want it to get ugly, because it's all Muschamp wants. This guy dreams about ugly football.
Absolutely.
He falls asleep and he has these, like you ever have a dog where they fall asleep, they just start like smiling and kicking, like they're running and chasing down a rabbit and eating it. Like, I mean, that's literally Muschamp when there's an ugly game of football, whether he's coaching it or playing in it or watching it. That's all he wants. And we cannot give that to him, because the moment that happens, I mean, that's his bread and butter. He'll win that. Yeah. that's just what he does. So I'm a little concerned about that. You actually, and I have it written down here, Topher, you had mentioned we're coming off a physical game, but we only played 47 defensive snaps against LSU, which is insane, but it's a good way for the team to not be as banged up. I think South Carolina played 95 defensive snaps against Georgia. That's double.
Wow, that's a lot.
And they went to double overtime.
That's a lot to play against a team like Georgia.
And Georgia has this big ass offensive line. I mean, those guys are 350 pounds apiece. They're huge. They're strong. They beat the hell out of you. That's the way that Kirby plays. So South Carolina, they don't have any guys listed on the injury report outside of. But I'm convinced there are a few people there that are probably hiding stuff in the same way that we hid Grenard's injury all week from LSU. We didn't let on. There was nothing announced about that. He wasn't on the injury report, but we knew he wasn't going to be fully good to go, and obviously he wasn't ready to play. So, I mean, yeah, coming in where you're playing almost 100 snaps, that's exhausting. So that's one of my, I don't know if I want to call it ace in the hole, but we could take huge advantage of that. And I'm hoping we do on offense. We're going to have to win this with our offense. I don't know if we can trust our defense to win it, but hopefully they're not the same level of LSU on offense. I don't think they are. Loud noise, not going to be a huge factor. It's still going to be there. So, I mean, we just have to make sure that we're ready. But again, I don't know if I've seen the team not show up ready recently. And I don't want to like curse it or anything, but I think that's a huge point for Mullen. That's what he wants to teach. That's what he coaches. That's one of his biggest things right there. And we've been doing a great job of that. We have not come out completely flat everywhere. These players show up ready to play. And so, I mean, the whole mental thing I had mentioned earlier, that's something that Mullen's been good at handling. So he's done the SEC gauntlet before out in the West. So I think we're going to be able to show up strong. I'm pretty excited about this game.
Yeah, I feel so much better about this game with Trask. If we were going into this with Franks, I would feel so much trepidation
Anxiety.
that we were going to see. Yeah, that we were going to see like an ugly turnover-filled game. But I don't see that from our offense right now, and so I feel so much more confident with Trask. And it's sort of weird with South Carolina, given the pedigree of defensive back developers they have on their staff. From what I've seen of them this year, I've not been impressed with their defensive back play. And so I think that's a huge advantage for us in this game.
They do have one person. Israel Mukumo.
Oh, yeah.
Mukuamo.
He's like 6'4".
So I actually watched him play against Kentucky and watched him play against Missouri. And he's really good. Like he's a mush champ corner. They have T-Rob still back as their corner coach, right? Still defensive backs coach.
Defensive coordinator. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy's really good. Like on the stat sheet, you just look at the stats, like, okay, yeah, he's got 37 tackles this season. He's got 4 interceptions. 3 of them came against UGA because Jake Fromm was an idiot and threw his direction. Alabama didn't throw his way. Missouri didn't throw his way. UK didn't throw his way because he's really good. He locks down whoever he's up against. He's probably one of the best corners in the SEC right now, in my opinion.
Does anybody know if he was hurt last year?
He
was a true freshman.
He's a sophomore.
I'm talking last year.
Oh yeah, last year, yeah.
So because I have it listed that he played in 5 games as a true freshman. I was actually interested because I don't remember him last year. So I mean, he might not. I don't think he played in our game, or at least he didn't get any stats. But I was wondering if they burned his red shirt for no reason, or if maybe he got hurt at some point when they had planned on playing.
Probably played special teams a lot. He's a big guy. He's 6'4". He's a 6'4" corner, so he's definitely got the height advantage over against most people he's going to go up against. And he was offered by a lot of top schools for a 3-star guy. I'm looking at his offer list. He's got, we offered him. You got Louisville, Oklahoma State, Georgia, Florida State, South Carolina. I think he was on like a watch list for Clemson. Obviously I don't think they ever offered him, but he's from Louisiana, so he came from a smaller school in Louisiana. So he's one of those underrated guys that I don't want to overlook. I think whoever he's matched up against, he probably will eliminate out of the game. So that's one of the matchups I'm excited about is Kyle Trask versus this guy, right? But I'm also really excited to see what Ernest Jones does, who's the South Carolina linebacker, against Kyle Pitts.
Fun fact, he was the Mukwamu. He was committed to Florida State, actually.
Okay,
that's right. I was thinking it was something like that.
He was one of the decomits when Taggart came in, or when they fired, or fired, when Jimbo left them high and dry.
That damn Jimbo.
Nah, fucking Jimbo. Another reason to blame him. That's all we need.
And so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's pretty good. So I mean, he's definitely one of those guys that I wouldn't overlook. The rest of their defensive backs, not really that good. So I think our wide receivers should be able to perform well against everyone but him. But also, I said that Kyle Trask wasn't going to be able to throw up against Stingley, and then he ended up tearing that guy up. So we'll see. Ernest Jones is a great coverage linebacker. I'm excited to see what he does against Kyle Pitts, just because I think Kyle Pitts, honestly, guys, is like the best player on our offense right now. Like,
Is he the best tight end in the country, though?
I don't know if he's the best tight end in the country. Maybe he's the most talented tight end in the country. He might not be the most he might be the best, you know.
He's the best.
He's fast, he's big, and I don't think I've seen him drop a pass. I know there's stuff he hasn't been able to catch, but like he's maybe dropped like a couple passes that were like, you know, heavily contested passes, but he's really good. Like, and that guy is a matchup nightmare. Like, who are you gonna put up against him? Like, he's sick. He's gonna be taller than most linebackers. He's gonna be faster than most linebackers. Possibly all linebackers. The guy's fast, and so I'm excited to see. Like, I think he's that guy that I'm glad first, because his emergence has given Kyle that safety net. And if you have an elite tight end who can catch passes and can block, because he's blocking too. Like, if you watch, there's a couple times where he chipped and blocked some LSU defenders who should have like just eviscerated Kyle Trask. Like, he's really good.
He's made a lot of progress there, it seems like.
He's really good.
I think we were calling him out at the beginning of the year, actually. For messing up
sure.
in the Miami game.
Yeah,
he's definitely stepped that up.
And I'm like, it's like, you know, and I'm glad that, you know, maybe we're giving Larry Scott a little bit too much shit, because he's actually recruited pretty decently for that position. You know, Zipperer is another top guy.
Who's giving Larry Scott shit?
People are giving Larry Scott shit all the time on Reddit.
They're idiots. No offense, but they're wrong.
Yeah, he's not the worst person on our offense for staff. I can tell you that much. That might be Billy Gonzalez. But I'm excited to see. Those are matchups I'm excited to see. You know, their top corner versus Kyle Trask, and then arguably our best weapon on offense right now, their defense, because they got some solid coverage linebackers. It's gonna be fun to see.
One thing that I've noticed is South Carolina fans. They think that they have a shot at the SEC championship game. I'm not kidding. Their writers think that, their fans think that, and I'm wondering if their team probably might believe it too. I mean, they probably, right, if their fans and writers think it, that they have a shot to go to the SEC championship game. And that's based on Missouri being ineligible, because I think they already got their asses kicked by Missouri. First of all, does South Carolina have a better chance to beat us without Zuniga and Grenard in there? Or do you think we're able that maybe LSU's offense is just fantastic, and with our other guys we'll be able to handle it?
They have a better chance of beating us. I don't think there's any question about that. But will they? I mean, like, do we handicap it and say, you know, they have a 20% chance of beating us, 25% chance of beating us, maybe a little bit low? Yeah, no, I would call it a 20% chance. And if Zuniga and Grenard were playing, it would probably be like a 10% chance. Is how I would feel about it.
I don't think they're gonna win. But I think it's going to be, like, if I had to pick what kind of game I expect this to be, I feel like it's going to be more of a Kentucky-type game versus a Tennessee-type game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but, I mean, like, even if they beat us, like, they're overlooking the fact that Will Muschamp is still their coach, and that he's going to fuck up and lose a game that he shouldn't down the stretch of this season, even if they beat us.
Which is why you laughed, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring something up now to see if this changes your mind at all. The Mullen offense versus the Muschamp defense. 2006, Florida at Auburn. Dan Mullen, our offensive coordinator. Will Muschamp was the defensive coordinator over there.
Okay.
At Auburn. Yep.
Okay, that's right. He was at Auburn. Okay.
He was there for 2 years. We
They
scored
went to Texas.
17 points that game. When we had Leak and, you know, Tebow was the alternate, but we had Leak, Percy Harvin, some of the, I'm forgetting the senior receivers, Dallas Baker maybe. 17 points and lost that game. That's all we could score on offense, 17. That was with Mullen as offensive coordinator. Following year, 2007, at home against Auburn. I remember this game vividly. I was there. I was very angry. We scored 17 points. Lost. And again, Mullen versus Muschamp. The next time they played was 2015. And this is Mississippi State at Auburn, because Muschamp was there again for a year. He's got a weird trajectory, by the way. But anyways, 17 points. Now, Mississippi State ended up winning the game, I guess, based on their defense. They went up 14-0. Yeah, go on.
Was 2015, was that the Dak Prescott year where they were briefly number one, or was that was 2014?
That would have been.
That was 14.
Might be
Because
right,
it was that was the first year of the college football playoff, because they were the trivia fact is that Mississippi State was the very first number one ranked
Okay.
team in the
Yes.
first college football rankings, which would have been
Yeah.
2014. Yeah. So that was
Yep.
post Prescott.
Prescott was still there though.
Oh, he was.
I think he came back a year
Okay.
after that. I think I have it written down that they went up 14-0 in the first half based off of his passing. So I'm assuming that he scored some touchdowns.
Gotcha.
They were shut down completely in the second half with only 56 total rushing yards. So again, Muschamp got the better of Mullen a bit. And then bringing us to the next time they played in 2018, last year, Florida versus South Carolina, we put up 35 points, which by far that doubles what Mullen has scored against Muschamp every single time. But that was based off of almost 400 yards rushing on the ground and 4 touchdowns, which obviously we're not going to be able to do. So the question is, can Dan Mullen score points on Will Muschamp? I'm a little worried based on those numbers.
I mean, Muschamp's he's a great defensive coach. Like,
Yeah.
great. Like, like pound for pound, he might be in the discussion for top 3 defensive coaches. I guess if he's a coordinator, in
If
college
he's
football.
defensive coordinator, he'd be number 1, I think. I mean, he'd get number 1 money easily.
Yeah, like he's amazing. And I mean, it's a game that is going to be more difficult than I think people expect.
Yeah. This is not a layup.
I'll be pleasantly surprised if it's not. But yeah, I mean, I expect it to be a low-scoring game, and it's going to be, who's going to win the matchups more? Because he coaches great defenses. T-Rob is a fantastic play caller. Alabama ran up and down on them, but Alabama runs up and down on everybody, and there's still times where Alabama stalled. It's like he's good at putting together defensive game plans, and he has obviously he understands the offense Dan Mullen's trying to run. But I think Kyle Trask is just like, he's a really good quarterback for what we need right now. With all the wide receivers we have, we can spread the field. And it's gonna be a little bit of a different offense than I think Muschamp's used to going up to against Mullen. So it might be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I think Trask might be the big difference there. That's kind of that was my other thought on this, is that while Mullen has not done, God, I hate that their names are so similar, Mullen and Muschamp. I keep doubting whether I'm actually saying the right name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but whether Mullen's performed poorly before, I just second guessed again. Whether he's performed poorly before, he's done that with a rushing quarterback and kind of a different style offense. He's had to adjust this year with Trask in there. So that maybe that plays a factor into it, having to switch it up. I'm hoping it does, because I'd love to be able to throw on them. We're going to need to be able to throw on them. It's not like our running game. I mean, while it improved, it's not like it's gotten to a point where I mean they just shut down Georgia, that running game. So I don't know if anybody's expecting to start running all over them, but it's not going to happen. Yeah, so I mean, it gets going on with the running game. They have a guy, Javon Kinlaw. I don't know, Hammer, if you have looked at him much, but from what I'm seeing and hearing, he's almost on that Derek Brown level, probably the second best defensive tackle we'll see all year. Their other defensive tackles are absolute beasts. They got Kobe Smith, the guy who's just dominant and been around for a long time. And then Rick Sandage is a guy that we really wanted. I think we had him pegged as a future first-round pick. I think that's what we had told him when we were recruiting. South Carolina ended up getting him, and he's fantastic. Because, I mean, their defensive line is fantastic. So I want us to start being able to run a little better. I just don't know if it's going to happen at all this game.
Yeah, I mean, they got a solid defensive front. Front seven's good, and their secondary is okay. Like, they got that elite guy at corner, and then everyone's kind of average to above average. But it's like, that's a talented team with a lot of young guys too. Like, that's surprising if you look at their depth chart. A lot of their guys are going to be back next year. So, Dan Mullen. Jesus did it to me too. Flat. I'm thinking Dan Mullen instead of Will Muschamp. Fuck.
MU. It's the MU. And then we hired McElwain after that. All these M's. It's really driving me nuts. Someone needs to change their name. I vote Muschamp.
Meyer, Muschamp, McElwain, Mullen. Interesting.
Weird. In the water.
Yeah, it's just all M names. But yeah, they got he has some solid guys, but he also Javon Kinlaw's pretty good, but he doesn't do well when he doesn't have Sterling and Smith making plays. I noticed that a couple games they've been able to lock him out. He's not a takeover by himself kind of guy, but if you leave him one-on-one, he's an impact. Fortunately, our offensive line looks like it has improved, not significantly, but it's making improvements. Maybe not in terms of overall run blocking, but they're giving Trask the pocket he needs to perform in. If you notice, they move everyone to the left as much as they can, so that he can go to the right and up if he needs to, which is helping out with his internal clock, and and that's definitely an improvement. But yeah, he's a talented guy. Honestly, the one you would need to look out for the most is DJ Wonham, their linebacker.
Yes.
He's the guy that's probably going to make a bigger impact than Kinlaw is against
He
us.
may have missed last year too. They had so many injuries last year when they came to play us. I think he was one of the guys who was either hurt or I don't know if he missed the game or if he was limited. Yeah. But they had a lot of guys out, and that helped.
Are we concerned at all about misdirection with the Helinski thing, where they are saying that he'll be able to play, but it's actually going to be the other guy? It's actually going to be Joyner.
So the MCL thing, the sprained MCL, we found out this is something you can play through. Anybody who's watching the Gators now knows this because Kyle Trask did that. He went to the locker room, got checked out, came back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Helinski didn't.
Yeah.
When did he get hurt? Was it second half? I'm trying to remember. It was early enough to matter. I mean, there was a good chunk of the game.
Joyner was in for most of the third and all the fourth.
So, I mean, it was early enough though that if he was able to come back, he would have. And he's not the kind of guy who's not going to come back. I mean, he's a leader. He definitely is a leader. He was on the sideline with ice on. So maybe it was a little more severe of a sprain, just slightly. Maybe he has a lower pain threshold. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But the fact that he didn't come back in or even try to come back in has me thinking there's some misdirection here. Yes, I agree. I don't know if concerned is the word I'd use because I'm not worried about it, but I think that it's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I would be very surprised if we didn't see both of them at the very least, or maybe just Joyner. But despite his mobility, Joyner does not scare me against our defense. I think that's a losing situation for them. I think Helinski gives them their best chance if he's ready to go.
With that, Georgia had the flip thing happen that we had with Kentucky, where we had this quarterback coming in who nobody really knew what he could do. And he tore us apart, and maybe our defense sucks. I really don't know anymore with LSU, but he tore us apart. People figured him out afterwards, and that was that. Georgia had this guy come in. They have no idea. I mean, they were not ready. They were ready for Helinski. They knew he was their biggest weapon, and they could not handle Joyner. They had no idea what to do. So I'm hoping that there's enough on film, and that, I mean, obviously we're going to be able to prepare for it this time. I think we would actually shut it down. I'm much less concerned about a quarterback that's a rushing threat than I am a quarterback who is going to throw to the right receiver, who knows how to find the open guy, who's going to get rid of it quickly and throw to the open guy. Because we saw in the last game, we cannot handle that. We don't have that kind of defensive depth to just cover people constantly. And with Grenard and Zuniga out, we're not going to get to him either. So, I mean, I that might go in reverse of what someone was saying earlier, but I would prefer Joyner, and I'm about 60. I know we'll see him. I think he might play the entire time.
Yeah. All right. So do we want to do predictions here?
Yeah, let's get into it. I think we had some other stuff to talk about after this, but so let's knock them out. Should I go first? I think it's my turn, or is it not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wow, I really wasn't prepared for this.
You just asked for it, though.
I know, but you got to understand. I don't think ahead. I just talk.
Well, let's review last week. I don't have it written down. Does anybody remember off the top of your head what your predictions were last week?
I think I was 32-26 or something along those lines, and I can pull them up real quick because I think we had actually tweeted them out to make sure that people could make fun of us afterwards.
Yes, we
wrong.
did. Yes.
Yeah, mine was pretty bad.
Yours? Do you remember, or do I have to look it up?
28 to 10, something like that.
All right, I got it right in front of me. We have the Hammer Suit, 21-10 US.
Yeah.
You
So
were
stupid.
you were the weakest link in this. You were by far the furthest away. We had me, Zlatan Diego, at 34-28 UF. Our offense did exactly what I thought. Our defense did not. And Topher Gator, the big winner and therefore big loser, 31-28 LSU.
Indeed. I'm not proud of what I did, but I did it.
But you did make sure that we read it over.
Yes, I did.
I would too. You gotta brag when you're right. I mean, I don't blame you at all.
I ate some shit for that Auburn prediction, so you know what? I gotta let my nuts hang, boys.
This is what we do. Yeah. So all that and all that time, let's get to the South Carolina predictions. I'll go. I think that while this could be a very big trap game for us, the stuff that I said earlier, I just think that South Carolina they're not overlooking it, but I don't think they're going to show up as ready as we are. I think we've been in the zone. I think we will be in the zone this game. I'm not scared of their offense at all because it's Muschamp and because I've seen that offense and it just didn't really do much. I'm not nearly. I mean, I think their defense is going to be on LSU's level, maybe a little bit better with the coaching, a little bit worse with the talent. It's not some super stellar defense, so I think Kyle Trask will be able to handle it. So I think we're going to win, and I think we're going to beat the spread. I will take 38-17, Florida.
Oh,
Very nice.
prediction.
Hammer.
Muschamp is a terrible head coach, and he doesn't understand offense at all. But I think the combination of us coming off of a loss that is emotional, like it's an emotional impact loss. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's also like we're going to be prepared. I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I've seen Muschamp football before. Yeah, every now and then he plays spoiler for teams. He did that last week against UGA. Dan Mullen's going to make sure the team is prepared because he's going to probably show them that game again. Look, the third-ranked team in the country who lost at home, we're not going to be that team, even though we're going to South Carolina, right? So I expect it to be not as high-scoring as Lat predicts, but my prediction is 28-17 Florida.
I'm pretty close to the same. I'm going to go 35-20. I think it's a close game until the mid-third quarter, and then we just kind of put our foot on the throat. We didn't allow. I think we held every team under 20 except for Miami and LSU. And I just don't see South Carolina's offense with an injured true freshman quarterback or a third string DB / wide receiver / athlete. I think he was recruited as a quarterback out of high school, and then they moved him to DB, if I recall correctly. Anyway, either way, I just don't see them being able to do anything near what LSU did. So yeah, I think we hold them in the teens for most of the game, and they get a garbage time touchdown. So yeah, I'm going 35-20, Florida.
And since I went first, I'm not going to change it. But I was thinking about it. I just don't see them scoring 2 touchdowns either. I actually think they're probably going to score 13 points. I just do not see them doing anything. I agree completely. I'm not ready for that. And part of it is my mind is not going to let me think that either, because if South Carolina comes out and scores 30 points on us, we have huge problems that might be long-term ones.
Yeah, I don't want that juju going into the bye week. I don't want to have to sit and think about that for 2 weeks.
All right, we have our predictions. Do we want to talk about some other games from this past week, or do we want to move onward? Did we talk enough about Georgia at all? Hey, did y'all see Georgia lost?
I did see that.
It was at home too, right?
Yep.
Man, that must have sucked for those fans. Wait, what wasn't it? Didn't the Braves get knocked out of the World Series like the same day or day before or something like that?
And the Falcons lost to the Cardinals.
Ooh, Falcons actually lost the Super Bowl after going up 28-3.
Oh wow!
I don't know if you remember that. And Georgia lost in the national championship after having a huge lead.
I guess this is empirical scientific proof as to why the St. John's flows north.
Absolutely. Can you tell us though, for people who don't know?
I believe that. Let me see. I've got the result in front of it. Yes, it does in fact turn out that Georgia sucks, and that is why the St. John's flows north.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys know that Georgia's loss to South Carolina was 486th loss by an AP top 3 team in history?
I
let's do the math here. 48 minus 6 equals 42, and they were ranked 3rd. So 42 minus 3 equals 39. What does that mean, Zlat?
Well, I believe it's the number of years until they will win their next championship.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. It's crazy how numbers do that.
Numbers are really weird. Yeah, they what the fuck? They shouldn't have even been close. I mean, my God. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. I had a big deadline. I was working during that game, so sadly, I did not get to enjoy it in its entirety and as much as I wanted to fully enjoy it.
Oh,
But
it was
I
epic.
do have a Georgia fan in my office. Yeah, and she was there, or she was. I knew she was keeping up with it, and I actually had a project that we were trying to knock out. So that was very enjoyable for me. I had a wonderful time.
I don't think you understand how hard Muschamp tried to lose that game.
Yeah, I kept
Like,
seeing
it was-
there was
it
a
was
point where I was like,
really
"Oh, they
bad.
got this," and then somehow
No, they
it was
didn't.
overtime, and I don't. Yeah,
They
I
went
mean, I
to
missed
kick a
I
field
missed some of the
goal,
weird
they
kicking
missed it.
things.
Or I think Kirby Smart didn't go for like a 60-yard field goal with goggles. At the end of the game, so they went to overtime, and then like they like fumbled the ball or threw an interception or something. So then all South Carolina had to do was kick a field goal from like 24 yards away to win, and their kicker shanked that shit. Like, it wasn't even like close. That was like it went to Texas. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it was bad. And I'm sitting there in complete disbelief because this is at UGA. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna lose now in like double overtime, right? Like, no way. And then South Carolina is required to go first because they went second in the first overtime, so then they go first second time. They barely get a first down in the first couple of possessions. But they finally score. It was like they win by 3, right? Won by a field goal, or they won by a touchdown. I can't remember.
The field goal.
So they do get a field goal in. And I'm like, okay, so you guys made it. That's great. And then UGA makes a couple plays. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. They're about to score a touchdown. Well, Muschamp calls a completely ridiculous timeout, like, for no reason. I'm like, oh, my God, here we go. Here's another one of those Muschamp epic fails. And then somehow Georgia's kicker, who I cannot stand but is really, really good, somehow misses the field goal to win the game, or to tie the game and go to a third overtime. And that was the most ridiculous ending to a game I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was bad.
They lost?
Yeah. The third-ranked team in the country lost to a team that had only won 2 games prior to that.
Pretty bad.
At
Like,
home.
on a scale of good to bad, I would say that's on the very bad side of the scale.
Yeah.
Do you think that Muschamp tried to lose it, or that Kirby tried to Muschamp it?
It was. I also did not have the chance to watch it live, and so I rewatched the fourth quarter onward. It was the classic. No. After you. I don't. No, I'm not interested in winning this game. Oh, neither am I. Here, by all means, be my guest, please. Please win this game, won't you?
It was literally Muschamp coaching both teams.
It was a cat attacking itself in the mirror.
As much as I hate that people want to make that whole Kirby to Muschamp comparison, because Kirby's obviously better, there might be a little bit of truth to the style.
Yeah.
Just in theory. I mean, recruiting's obviously dominant, but wow, that game. That was the most Muschamp loss ever, and Kirby did it.
He sure did.
If there was Muschamp awards, he'd win Muschampiest of the year.
Would you say he's the Brett Favre of Will Muschamps?
Yes, I would say that.
Did you guys know that they played together at Georgia? That's a joke, because it's something that they beat you over the head with every time there's one of those games.
There are a lot of games this past weekend. That was the only one that I really paid attention to besides ours, and I had a lot of fun with that. So, I mean, I'm in a pretty good mood. You know, we showed the nation we're here. We lost. That sucks. I'm not happy that we lost, and I don't feel like we won. But when Georgia loses, I feel like we won. So, all in all, you combine that, pretty good weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was solid. Like,
Yep.
We didn't follow the top 10, which is good. We got a lot of national respect. The team that I hate the most lost, so I mean it was a good weekend.
Tennessee won, which is generally something that I'm disappointed in, but in this context, I'm okay with it. Let them get an SEC win every year over, whoever. Mississippi State this year. It keeps his job warm, keeps him there for another year, so I'm totally fine with that. And Florida State got turned inside out by Clemson, which you love to see.
I did.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I try to block out horrible snuff films. It's not good for my psyche, so I try to not have that in my life. It's too negative for me, but that did happen, didn't it?
I mean, Florida State's so irrelevant right now.
Yeah, it's like whatever, another day at the office.
Was it even on TV? I'm not even sure.
It was on the ACC network, Channel 3.
Oh, well, then it's really not on TV for me because
it was, but there was a viewer discretion is advised when they came back from every commercial.
The FX logo
watch that. Yeah, it's got the big M in the corner. I can't watch that.
Mom, I need an adult.
Yeah. So Moorhead losing at Mississippi State. That's as he's an interesting dude. I thought he'd be doing a little bit better, but that makes you feel good too. Watching them go back to sucking ass. Because I mean, how bad do you have to be to lose to Tennessee?
Pretty bad.
Possibly the worst in the SEC.
Although they did get Kentucky and Auburn last year. And so it's like, I don't know, I guess maybe this is Pruitt's thing. Like he works his way up to a minor upset mid-season, midway through the SEC slate.
Gotcha. Yeah, really sticking it there. Well, Pruitt's probably the guy that'll get coaches fired then, because I mean, if he's doing the minor upsets, it's the teams that are kind of on the verge. Maybe he'll knock someone off later in the year. He's
going to be the new Sylvester Croom. If anybody gets that reference. Croom was okay, so we've got some younger listeners probably. So like Sylvester Croom was the coach at Mississippi State 10, 15 years ago. I think the one right before, was he right before Mullen? I think he was.
Yeah.
And
no, it was
I think
Houston,
he was.
Houston Nut, wasn't it?
No.
Ole Miss.
No, that was Ole Miss. Good God Almighty.
Oh, fuck.
Pipe down,
sorry.
Grandpa. Eat some applesauce.
What was that order on?
That was also Ole Miss.
Oh shit! Never mind. Okay.
There are two different schools, Hammer.
But yeah, anyway, Croom had this knack for being the death knell for coaches, and he was the death knell for our very own Ron Zook. He's the one who got Ron Zook fired. Anyway, yeah, the crooming was a thing. Like before Clemsoning, there was crooming, where if you lost to Sylvester Croom, that was probably the end of your coaching tenure in the SEC.
Grooming. It sounds like something bad.
So maybe Pruitt's that. Something that we talked about on the subreddit, there was a thread about it that had a lot of interesting takes. And I guess we'll wade into this subject for the first time of what will probably be many, and that is our quarterback situation going into next year. I mean, I have my preferences. My preference is that Felipe finds a beautiful new golden pasture where he can run around like a giraffe. That sounds like I'm insulting him. I'm not. He's a fine young man, and I think he's a good quarterback. But I'm ready to continue to see Trask for another year and continue to see Emery develop. And I hope that Felipe finds somewhere where he can start. That's what I hope. That's not necessarily what I predict, but that's what I hope. Oh, actually, and let me say, I've got to duck out here, so I'll let one of you guys finish this off. First time, long time. I'll take my answer off the air. And it's been a pleasure potting with you boys.
See you later, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Say indeed one more time before you leave. Oh, never mind.
I had to say it because Topher left.
Indeed. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I feel like Trask deserves the opportunity to go into next season as the favorite with his performance so far. Now, obviously, we'll see how he does at the tail end of the season, right? I think he's a solid quarterback. He's never going to be, like a Trevor Lawrence type caliber of an impact, but he's a solid quarterback. He's really good, and he fits.
Is that from an NFL perspective or from a college perspective?
That's probably from an NFL perspective. Like, I'm not sure how
Like what do you think? Do you think he has a national championship in college ceiling? Do you think he's good enough to really help with that?
Yeah,
'cause that's what it really comes down to for me.
Yeah, I think he is good enough to be a great college quarterback because he's got a solid quarterback coach, in Dan Mullen and Brian Johnson, be able to assist him with that. But I don't know if he's ever going to be one of those you build the team around him type guys. Does that make sense? Like he complements the team. He is a Chris Leak type, if I can give you a Florida perspective. He's not Tim Tebow, who's going to win a Heisman, dominate 4 seasons. He is I have the talent and the smarts to lead my team to victory. And so I feel like he deserves an opportunity next year, especially transitioning where you have brand new wide receivers for the most part. We're going to have a lot of new faces on defense. So I think he deserves the opportunity to do that. But I'm also torn because I think Emory Jones has the talent to do well. I feel like they hold him back. I think he's being held back, and it reminds me of, not at this level, so don't take this the wrong way, but remember when McElwain would refuse to change the offense for Trayon Harris? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I did. I remember way too vividly, actually, in horrible
Will
ways.
Greer and Trayon Harris were 2 completely different quarterbacks. And Trayon Harris, people will say, oh, people who are short can't play quarterback. No, they can fucking play quarterback. Russell Wilson is a perfect example of someone who's short. He's barely 5'11" and dominates the NFL. Right? It's the fact you have to build an offense around them. You got to complement. You got to put them in a position to succeed, right? And he refused to do that. He was holding him back. I don't think Dan Mullen's doing that at all with Emory Jones. Obviously, Dan Mullen is a superior head coach. He's a great offensive mind, but I feel like he's not letting Emory Jones play. Does that make sense? Almost
can he? We don't. If he's not starting, does he have the ability? Aren't a lot of Mullen's offensive strategies and plays setting up a running quarterback over a game? Isn't that what he's good at, rather than just a couple drives?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
And it's cool. Maybe he doesn't understand the offense completely, and that's fair. Maybe he doesn't. It's a very, from what I'm aware of, Dan Mullen has a complicated offense. It's not impossible to understand, but it's complicated, right? And and he has shown flashes. That pass he threw again. He threw a pass against LSU that Pirine caught it, right? And we scored a touchdown. That he probably shouldn't have made that. But the fact that he had the ability to scramble out and throw it and had the arm strength to get it there, that's something that Kyle Trask can't do. Does that make sense? And so, I don't know. I feel like Felipe Frank played his last snap at Florida against Kentucky. And it's unfortunate because the dude clearly cares about the team, and I like the guy. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I think I like the guy. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I feel like he's going to transfer somewhere else, or he's going to go probably play pro baseball, try his hand in the NFL draft. He might try everything. He might declare for the draft and see where he gets drafted, and then go play pro baseball, or he might transfer somewhere else. Maybe go down with Lane Kiffin at the FAU and see what happens. I'm just joking. I don't think he's actually.
Yeah, we're in a weird position with the quarterbacks because we have 3 guys eligible to come back next year. All 3 have started for us. Emory hasn't really started, but all 3 have shown they are capable of handling this offense with Mullen, and they've had different levels of success. You don't get that often. There's no way they all stick around. Somebody's leaving.
Yeah.
We're in a weird position where we have to juggle this. Having 2 people leave, that could be devastating to the team, depending on what we're able to add in the offseason. I'm actually really terrified of that. Mullen has to be really careful. I'm in agreement that Felipe Franks is gone. I like the guy, so I mean, whoever doesn't like the guy, they can suck it. I'm a huge fan of Franks. I think Trask is a better quarterback right now. We're talking right now, maybe not better NFL ceiling, but Trask is a better quarterback right now, and I think that Emory is the future. What I'm worried about is we're in this position, and I've played different. Different football. You remember back in the day, way back when they had the NCAA football games on just regular game systems,
No.
when things were cool. I was guilty of being like a Saban-like recruiter. I mean, that's all I really cared about, was just going hardcore, trying to just recruit super high guys. And you get into some positions sometimes where you have the senior quarterback that wants to come back, and he's like, ranked super high, but then you have this superstar freshman redshirt or whatever that's starting up, and he's got a good ranking, not as good as the senior. You're worried if you play this senior that came back that your guy's going to transfer out. We're in that situation right now, and I was guilty of cutting or demoting the senior and putting the freshman and starting anyways. And I mean, that's usually how I chose to go.
Because because future success is long-term future success is more important than the immediate short-term game.
Yeah, so it's just, exactly. So it's a lot to juggle right there. I think that Trask definitely would give us a better chance to win next year. I don't think there's any question, and that's over Franks or Emory Jones. I don't think it's even close with Franks. I think Trask is going to give us a better chance to win next year. I think Emory Jones, I'm pretty sure that's not close either, but we haven't seen enough of Emory to know.
I mean, and he might not understand it yet. That maybe might need another.
The big final thing here, or just the big piece that I'm looking at is, are we going to be good enough to compete at a level to win the SEC next year? Because if we are,
we're going to
I
be
want
able to
Trask
win the SEC next year.
Yeah, do we have that ability with the team that we're building right now?
No.
If we are, I want Trask in there. If we're not, I don't, and I want Emory Jones out there because we need him. Mainly because we only have one freshman coming in. We have nobody else on the roster. This is what happens when you have a guy transfer out, like Jalen Jones did, and he was forced out because he had his issues, and that's its own story. So I mean, you can't foresee that, but we're in a really bad situation right now because Emory is entering his third year, and if you don't start playing by then, quarterbacks transfer out. They transfer out so easily. It's just that's what they're going to do, and he'd be very likely to do that. So I'm terrified we lose him, and then we are forced with some kind of weird true freshman, or then we have to start getting these grad transfers, and I do not want that to happen.
I mean, I put I don't know if I put looking to the future on quarterbacks on Reddit yesterday, and I feel like we should look in the transfer market. I feel like how our quarterback depth chart is going to look next year. You're going to have Kyle Trask. You're going to have Emory Jones. I feel like Kyle Trask is going to give every opportunity to start. Maybe Jalen Jones is the guy that Dan goes with because he knows Kyle Trask is a team player and will stick around if he has to,
Jones?
Huh?
Emory Jones, but yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Did I say Jalen Jones? I don't know.
Sadly.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck that guy. Anthony Richardson will have every opportunity to compete. He's physically probably ready to play. Is he mentally? And that's probably the question. Is probably mentally he's not. So we'll see. He's definitely improved his performance in high school. He's a big guy. Savage will make him definitely ready to take some hits at the SEC level.
He's going to be huge. He's going to be Cam Newton sized. I mean, this guy's a monster. If you haven't seen him yet, he will be Cam Newton sized. Maybe an inch or two shorter, but he is huge. I have, I guess, a concern. I do not want to take a transfer quarterback. I think that's a waste of a counter, and I hate that. And I mean, if you need it, you need it. I get that. But we added Jalen Jones. We added Emory Jones. We're adding Anthony Richardson. Jalen's transferring out. We have 3 guys coming back next year, or potentially coming back next year, who are eligible and good depth in Franks, Trask, and Emory. 3 guys with experience. Obviously, one of them's going to leave, but that leaves you with 2. And I think I really hope we can find a way to have 2 guys stick around. That's
think
my
we
big
will.
thing. And if we have that, I don't know if we need another quarterback. I mean, maybe we do, but if we're
Well,
not going for that championship run, then
the sweet spot is 4. You want 4 quarterbacks on the team, right?
definitely
Or 4,
do. Yeah.
and the reason is because like if Kyle Trask goes down, knock on wood, then Emory Jones goes to start. Our backup is a preferred walk-on. Like that's not good. You don't want that. There's a reason why he was a preferred walk-on. And so you want to have 4. I can see Dan going into the market, maybe someone who wants to grad transfer to Florida, really for the degree more so than play time. At least be there in the quarterback room. Probably a smart guy that if we have to, like worst case scenario, he plays. He's like the 3rd string guy.
Maybe like a Tom Flacco.
Yeah, like a Tom Flacco.
His name Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Flacco. Yeah. I can see that happening. I can also see Dan maybe targeting a lower ranked quarterback / athlete with a lot of high end potential. Maybe someone who long term will play wide receiver or something like that. But maybe his freshman year he's like the 4th string quarterback, plays special teams. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like like something like that, because you want to have enough people to where you don't have to be concerned about injury depth at the quarterback position. This year is a weird year. I mean, Felipe Franks got hurt. It does happen. Kyle Trask almost got taken out of the game. So
Terrifying. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you want to have that security. So I expect Franks to leave, not because Dan wants him to leave. I expect him to leave because it's the right thing for him to do. Regardless of where he goes, if it's transfer or whatever. I think Trask comes back because he has shown that he doesn't really care about starting. He wants to be there for the team. I think Emory Jones comes back because he knows he has a very realistic chance at competing and winning the starting job. Because most of these receivers he's going to be throwing to are his guys. If he's playing on the second team, he's throwing to Copeland and Whitmore and Marks and Weston at practice. He's not throwing to Hammond and Swain like Trask is. Trask getting first team reps. So that's the edge up on the competition for him in practice. And so I expect at least 2 2020 recruits at quarterback, or a transfer come in that isn't expecting to start, but maybe like Dan's like, you have a realistic shot at competing for the job, but we're not going to guarantee you playing time.
This is something that we'll be talking about next week, probably a good bit. This is when we do our South Carolina post game. We're going to be getting a lot into recruiting, and what comes with recruiting is roster numbers, and with that, roster counters. Only get so many counters a year. You get 25 per year, and you can roll them forward if you don't use them. And there's ways to do different blue shirts and gray shirts to where you can take one in advance. A lot of ways to manipulate it, and it has to do with early enrollees. It's way too complicated to get into. It's not worth it. The point is that you're limited to 25. That's the general idea. And we may have a couple extra this year just because we didn't use them all. And I think we got some back because of the guys that didn't qualify.
And you have like Steele and Jalen Jones.
Well, yeah. I think Steele's is gone. They need to address that because that's a huge issue. And it's something that maybe we could talk about next week. Brew McCoy, Chris Steele, both come in 5-star guys or high 4-star guys to Florida and Texas, respectively. They don't even make it through spring or summer before they transfer to USC. They count as a counter for Florida and Texas, and they still go to USC without having played a down at either school. That's ridiculous. And it's what's opened up with this whole transfer portal thing. So they have to address that. I don't think they have yet. So I don't know if we get that counter back. I don't think we do as of now, which is bullshit. And I could see teams starting to manipulate that big time to where you have a guy use up another team's counters and you can just get him to flip over to your team. Why wouldn't you if you had the opportunity? It's insane, but that's a thing I don't need to get into. We're talking quarterbacks right now. I hate the idea of bringing in a grad transfer that's not going to play because that is a waste of a counter to me. I think we have maybe 28 this year, and it might be plus or minus 1. 28 counters this year. So anybody we bring in this year has to fit within that. we have so many needs. We have so many holes. Like you said, we have to replace the defense. I mean, we need to get 25 or 26 high school recruits. And obviously that's the big goal is you want true freshmen coming in, guys that are going to get in the system that are talented enough and that can play the whole. We need to have a couple of spots open for grad transfers and or JUCOs, not including quarterback. Wide receiver, we're going to need somebody. There's no question. Defensive line, we're going to need somebody.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm
just terrified of taking one.
It's not ideal, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, okay. So here's the thing. Maybe we'll do kind of what was it? Not Bradford, the Oklahoma quarterback. He walked on there. Baker Mayfield. He walked on to Oklahoma. Maybe we'll get some kind of situation like that where we can get somebody to walk on as a transfer. Other than that, I don't think it'll happen. You had actually mentioned a couple of targets, and I was looking at Jack Sears when he first announced, and that was intriguing to me. I don't know if he looks like a guy that's going to come all the way to Florida, but maybe Keaton Thompson. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but there are some issues with him, like not illegal things or anything like that. Nothing bad like that, but I don't think we're going to take him. If Mullen has heard what the deal is there, I don't think so, and I hope we don't. So I think he's a guy that he was one that I was looking at originally. I've talked to a few people who are pretty close to the program. I don't think we're going to get him, so we're kind of limited. Maybe some guys will pop up later on that'll be options. But yeah, it's a scary situation in that you need to have the depth. It's an exciting situation in that we do have a lot of pretty good options. So at least we have somewhat of a choice. Mullen has a complete choice in who he wants to play. It's just, is he going to have the dude to back up and maybe hold over until Anthony Richardson gets on the campus and is able to develop? Or maybe if we choose Emory Jones, we choose Emory.
I agree.
Yeah. So
I think we need to go two freshmen. I would just be more comfortable with two freshmen.
You're cutting out for.
Sorry.
No problem.
Is this better?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable if we had two freshmen. If we went that route, even if one of them was like we don't expect him to ever play quarterback, he's just there if we absolutely need him to kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then move him into develop him into like a receiver, defensive back, whatever it's going to be, an athlete. That would just make me feel more comfortable than the grad transfer. I just see that being something that I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
I think that's far more likely. Jahari Rogers, he's a commit right now. He's playing cornerback this year. He played quarterback throughout his high school career, and we have some other guys that we're targeting who have played or do play quarterback. So maybe that's the end goal. I don't think we're going to announce that until we figure out, or until past early signing day, and maybe see what these other guys are doing on our current team. Any other thoughts on that? I know we're getting close to the wire here.
No, I think it's pretty solid. I think it's going to be. I'm excited though because I feel like the competition next year is going to be an actual competition.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I would like that too, to have those guys come back and actually compete before the transfer out, the inevitable transfer out, unless of course Franks just goes pro anyways. In which case, then you'll.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So
it'll be good. Okay, so
that is it for this episode of our Florida Gators. I don't know how to do the outro.
Well, goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah.
See you next week for recruiting and talking about our Will Muschamp nomination.
Hell yeah. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
That was a heck of an outro there, fellas. I just wanted to pop in and say, if you get the opportunity, we sure would appreciate it if you go to however you listen to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, whatever it is, and give us a rating, subscribe, and perhaps most importantly, review it! Thanks for listening to the show. Go Gators.
Cease from quarreling and fighting, evil speaking and backbiting. All these things take no delight in when we're met together. Let a union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Whack for all to ride, oh, whack for